Welcome on in, everybody. This is Three Bold Takes. Chase here, back with some of his best friends, Freddie and Quinn. And this week, we're also bringing in our special guest for our overreactions, Austin Hambone, Arkansas. Austin Hamblin is on with us this week, our special guest. So excited to have him here. Guys, we're ready to talk some college football overreaction.
This root beer. I don't know if any of y'all drink root beer. Best root beer I've had. It's like a maple syrup root beer. Fantastic.
Quinn, I love you, dude. I love you. All right, guys. So for my overreaction this week, we're taking it to the LSU Ole Miss game because I had several different emotions. I chose Ole Miss last week in our games of the week. The other two guys chose LSU. Thank you, Lane Kiffin. But anyway, so throughout the game, man, I was just so excited. I saw Ole Miss go up. I think it was like 21 to like 3, 21 to 7. I don't know, some crazy score. I was like, oh my gosh, like Ole Miss is doing it. Like I'm going to pull this off, right? And then all of a sudden, like at halftime, it was like 34 to 31. And I was like, oh my gosh, fire Lane Kiffin right now. Like there's no way you keep Lane Kiffin after this game. And then Lane, they got Brian Kelly got up a little bit more. It was like 42 to 30, 34, something like that. And I was like, yep, it's over. Lane Kiffin's gone. He's going to be left on the tarmac part two. You just don't bring him back. And then all of a sudden they tie it up. And I was like, oh my gosh, like they're going to do it. And then Ole Miss finally takes the lead with 30 seconds left. And I'm just going through all these emotions. And I'm sitting there watching the last play. And, I was basically storming the field in my living room just with all the Ole Miss fans. So I was truly excited. But my main emphasis for my overreaction is that I believe it really, really hurt LSU last year to do what they did throughout the SEC and throughout their regular season and to go to the SEC championship because this is who they truly are. Their sophomore slump, it would have been amazing if that was in year one. Go through a couple of those hiccups, go through a couple of those missteps and bumps in the road, but absolutely getting throttled by Florida State and not looking competent in the second half, and then losing a stunner to Ole Miss like they did. It is not good for a sophomore slump for Jaden Daniels for the rest of this LSU team. And right now, I can see 4 to 5 losses for this LSU team going throughout the rest of the season. I mean, you have Auburn on the schedule, you have Alabama. I know Quinn, but there's Florida on the schedule. There's Texas A&M. So there are enough teams on here that can qualify for a few more losses for this LSU team. And this is really, really going to hurt Brian Kelly for his second year, but also the rest of this LSU team.
Can I just go first here real quick?
I'd love it, Freddie.
The only emotion that I had during that game was anger because the Alabama game started on ESPN News. And I'm sick and tired of these television companies only allotting 3 hours for a college football game when they know that it goes longer than 3 hours every single game.
Right.
Okay. That's number one. Every Alabama game this year has been delayed from being on the regular channel. A lot more time for the game. That's my TED Talk. I hate it because they're just out for money. Now, game itself. You remember whenever we discussed the LSU Florida State reaction, I said that when you overachieve in year one, it's impossible to overachieve the overachieving. And that's exactly what's happening this year. They overachieved heavily in year one because of a down Alabama. And just Brian Kelly being Brian Kelly and going for it, a 2-point conversion to win the game. However, in year two, it's hard as a year two coach at a program like LSU with such expectations to meet the expectations. I don't care what they did last year. If they would have won 4 games last year, coming into this year, they would still have the expectation because they wear the purple and gold and it says LSU on their jersey. And that's just how it is. And when you underachieve, you're going to catch some flack. You're going to catch slander. The fire Brian Kelly stuff I already hear it swirling on Twitter. But I want to give props to Lane Kiffin also because I said he was the most overrated coach in college football because he did not have a good win. There was no career-defining win so far, and he's been there, 4 years, 5 years now, whatever it is. But this was his first really big win for Ole Miss, and I'm happy for him. He genuinely looked happy after the game. So that was my emotion. Happy for Lane Kiffin. He did a heck of a job.
Austin, I'll go ahead and let you go first. I'll wrap this up.
Okay. Yeah, I think LSU is going to have some work to do to get it's to 9-3, 8-4 if that's what they want. I think they're going to have some work to do. Chase mentioned it earlier, but I'm an Arkansas fan, so I watched that game last week between Arkansas and LSU, and I'll tell you, after watching Arkansas all year, I don't think that Arkansas LSU game should have been close at all. I think LSU should have ran away with that, and they didn't. And I think that was kind of the first realization on my part that LSU maybe wasn't as good. Just overall as a team, it's not really one specific area, but the defense looked really, really, really bad this week against Ole Miss. Terrible. And when you have somebody like Harold Perkins, it's it's crazy to think that the defense is that bad. I think if the defense can show some signs of life here in the next couple of weeks, I think there's a chance that they could turn it around. But I don't see that after watching them throughout the first 5 weeks of the year.
Yeah, my thing for LSU, I think last year, and y'all were hitting on this a little bit, the overachieving. I think they were really an 8-4 type team last year that loses a bowl game, who lucked up 2 extra wins and then lost their bowl game. And this year, they're an 8-4, 9-3 team that's going to win their bowl game. That's what they are this year. Their biggest problem, their corners. Look at every single Power 5 opponent that played, whether it was aside from Mississippi State, who they shut down. Mississippi State's offense is bad. You look at the other games they've played, teams are throwing the ball all over the field on them, and it's their corner play is not up to par, especially the LSU standard of DB play. They're going to continue to get exposed when they play Texas A&M. Now, as far as the Florida game, I ain't letting that slide, Chase. Florida's terrible. I don't know what team walked off the plane when Tennessee showed up to Florida. That wasn't Tennessee. Florida got lucky there. They're trash. They're really bad. LSU should handle that game no problem. But I still think they're exposable when it comes to their games against Alabama, Texas A&M. And I wouldn't blink if Auburn got the better of them as well. But as far as the rest of the SEC West, it is a wide open division. I think Ole Miss, like I said at the beginning of the year, is going to be competitive through the year in the SEC. I'm very excited for Ole Miss, Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M, like Freddie predicted, could actually still make a deep run in the West play. I think it's technically a 4-team race. LSU's not out of it, I wouldn't say, but I don't think they're going to compete with Alabama and Texas A&M, and they've already lost to Ole Miss. So that's really where I'm sitting with LSU. They're probably going to end this year 8-4, 9-3. I still like them to win their bowl game, though. I do think they build off of this season into long-term success under Brian Kelly. But I think people were jumping the gun too soon coming into this season.
Yeah, because what'd they go last year? 10-4, 9-4?
9-3 regular, not 10-2 regular season, lost the SEC title in their bowl
there
game.
It is. Yeah, and so I think it's just the difference in them winning against like Alabama and beating the likes of that kind of team last year that really changed the outlook of who they were. And so this year, already losing Ole Miss, getting trounced by Florida State has already said, oh, wow, these guys are in a huge sophomore slump, when in reality, it's just a difference in wins. And thinking that LSU is probably still going to be an 8-4, 9-3 team. But the way we've seen the rest of the SEC play this past week, there are definitely more losses coming for LSU. So just wanted to throw. Go ahead, Freddie.
I just want to say this out. I just want to throw this out there. This was such a Brian Kelly game. If you go back to Notre Dame, he lost every meaningful bowl game or postseason game he ever played in. And this kind of felt like that game, because it felt like for LSU, and we said this, after the Florida State loss, every single game is a must win if you want to achieve the goal that you have for yourself. and he got out coached. He tried to do too much. Now, Perkins, they're doing the same thing to him this year that they did to Will Anderson last year. They're dropping him back in coverage for no reason at all. And that really upsets me because I remember last year he was the most dominant player on defense that I saw one of in all of the country. And now they're just trotting him back to guard the short out route. And it's like, why? That's such wasted talent right there.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I saw that week 1, against Florida State when they had him at the inside linebacker, and I just knew that's he just did not look comfortable at all in the linebacker position. And I realized that that's probably more of maybe an audition for the NFL. That's probably maybe where he'd fit better in the NFL. But I mean, I think at this point, to get the most out of him and how lethal he is off of the edge, he's got to stay on the edge. And I don't think there's ever a need for him to be dropping back in coverage. As many pass rush attempts as you can get for Harold Perkins, the better. But what I will add is I'm not super high on Missouri, but I'll tell you, LSU going to Missouri next week. There could be something there. I'm not super high on Missouri, but I also didn't think Missouri would beat Kansas State. Thought there was a chance Vandy could knock Missouri off. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but I think there might be something there.
Wow.
So watch out for Missouri for LSU. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for our overreactions this week. So glad to have Arkansas Austin on with us this week to join us for our overreactions. We talked some Georgia, we talked some LSU, we talked some Washington, and we also talked that maybe Texas is back. So make sure you to watch all 4 videos. Thank you so much for joining us and some of my best friends, Freddie and Quinn, and also our special guest, Austin. Till next time.